do it then. Let's welcome Claudia Burnett.
Hello. Uh, I'm a bit nervous today, even though this is my second Bavard. My name is Claudia, and I'm a house whisperer. I hope I don't nerd out too much because I really love houses. And I actually discovered that I was a house whisperer by living in Eastbourne. But I'll get to that later. So do you know what it's like to walk down the street and have all the homes just talking and shouting at you? All I can hear, or how I've interpreted it, is what I hear is, paint me, fix me, why have you taken away my door, what have you done to my roof, and why have you ripped out my insides? So this is where it began. This is the beginning, and what influenced me subconsciously. This is what I'm going to tell you about. What influenced me subconsciously, what random thoughts and where the whispers began, and what I would like you to leave with. This is my family home. This is where I grew up. My dad, that's him. That's my papa, the builder. This was my subconscious influence, which I didn't realise until I was doing my presentation for this talk. My dad loved to decorate the house. He would make sure the house was painted every couple of months. I didn't really quite get it. However, the more I got into what I do, the more I understand it. It's a way of kind of looking after your house. This is the house that my dad built. This is a house in Antigua. This is the family home that we grew up in. This where I lived with my three brothers, my mum and my dad. This is the picture that is on the screen now is a picture of the house as it is now, not how it was when we lived in it, because my dad would be totally upset by looking at that wall, because it was a wall that he built, and he would make sure it was clean everything all the time. He would make sure also that he would decorate the house at least every couple of years. When I lived in my own house, he made sure that he would come round and tell me that I'd have to paint the house. I wouldn't do it, so he'd come round and do it for me. This is where I moved from my family home to this home. This is where I existed rather than lived. And I realised that quite a lot of people do that. So I lived here, I had a child, my daughter, I worked for the post office, I worked there for 17 years. And what I did in this house was exist. I didn't really live. And what I mean by existing is I went to work, I came home. I cooked dinner, went to sleep, woke up, went back to work, and it was just homework, homework, work, home, work, home. And people don't realise that it's really important to the home that you live in it, rather than just use it as a place to stay. So from this house, this was my next home. This was 34 Springfield Road. And I don't know whether you noticed it, but this house is number 71. I lived outside the 171 bus stop in Tottenham. There's a lot to do. I love numbers. This was 200D. It doesn't follow the theme that I'm going on, but this is number 34, which adds up to 7. There's a theme about 7s that seem to follow me. So this is the house that I lived in. And again, I didn't really live in it. I existed, but I lived mostly in this house. I brought my daughter up. It was a great house. And again, as you can see, this house has been painted by my dad. And it hasn't seen a lick of paint since then, which was probably over 20 years ago. And again, he would be quite devastated. My dad passed away 2 years ago. So he might be turning in his grave right now. So yeah, he would come round and tell me off for not looking after the house. And he made sure that whichever house we lived in and wherever we were, he would either look out after the outside of the house or decorate or renovate the inside of the house, and he would do that for loads of different people. So from this house, I moved to Eastbourne, which I've come full circle. And this was my view from the window that I lived in Langley Point, Magellan Way. And this is where the random thoughts and whispers began. And I didn't realise that I was picking up on the house, because how I've interpreted it is I can hear the house talk to me. And even though I say I'm a house whisperer, I'm really a house listener, because the whispering is more about listening than it is about than it is about whispering. Although we do have a communication. So this is number 7 Magellan Way, which I moved into from London. And the only reason why I moved into this house was because the lady said she had a West Highland Terrier. And I kept seeing a Western Highland Terrier in my meditation. So I thought it was a sign, so I decided to come and have a look. I loved it so much, and I could see the sea from my bedroom window, which was that view, which who would not love that? Especially having lived in London all of my life. So this is the house that I lived in. And I lived there with the owner, his wife, and the daughter and the dog named Poppy, and she rented out rooms, so she had 2 other rooms. And something happened and they decided that they wanted to sell. And this is where I started to hear the whispers, or hear the house speak to me, as I like to put it. So I heard when they told me that they're putting up the house for sale, I heard quite clearly, this is a family home, I want a family. I didn't pay any attention to it. I thought I was going off my head. So when she put the house up for sale, a couple came to look at the house. And I heard quite clearly, it's really interesting hearing things in your head. I heard quite clearly, it's not them. Didn't think anything of it. The next thing that happened, someone else came the next day, and it was an elderly lady with a younger lady. And I heard again quite clearly, it's them. Didn't think anything of it. And then within about 3 hours, the homeowner called me and said, the couple that came, they've put an offer in on the house and I'm going to sell. So I told her that I'm handing in my notice. And she said, don't worry, it's not going to sell quickly. It's going to take a while. And I said, I don't think it is. And I said, I think I said at that time, I can't remember if it was before they came or after they came, I said at the time, if you haven't got a buyer, it was before, if you haven't got a buyer by August, you'll be selling by August. I moved back to my mum's for a little while, and I came back in August because I'd left some stuff in her loft, and they were moving. So that was really quite a surprise for me. Even though I said the words, when I say the words, I don't know where those words are coming from. I'll just say whatever comes to my mind. So that happened, and they sold the house, and everything went through really quite quickly. So from there, that's when I kind of realised that I was hearing things, but I didn't, and then I would say things. So the lady that owned the house said to me I didn't need to move out too soon, but I did anyway, and I moved out and I moved into the next home. So the next home I moved into, when I moved in, I said straight away, if I move in, your house is going to sell. And the lady said, well, my house was up for sale, but I've taken it off the market, so you don't need to worry, because everyone was worried that I would have to move again, but I wasn't worried about that. And she told me that she'd taken it off the market, but while I was there, I said, that's not going to matter. While I was there, about 4 or 5 people came to look at the house, and I knew exactly who wanted to buy it. So, and she said to me, "Don't worry, I think the only reason why people have come is because the estate agent wants me to keep the house on the market." And I said, "I don't think so." However, I lived in the Old Town. I lived on Hill Road, and I could see the whole of the Eastbourne, and it was fabulous. It was my best view ever. And then I had the Downs as my back garden, and I said out loud, and I didn't mean to mock anything, but I said out loud, "I don't want to move from here until I see the bluebells in the woods." And so someone put an offer in, the person withdrew the offer, and then things then started happening to the house. So I kind of never stay too long when things start happening. And what started happening was they dug up the front of the garden, and that wasn't a problem. I'd gone away and I came back, and then that wasn't a problem for me. Everything was still working in the house. And then I went away again to London to visit my parents, and I came back, and the house was, the front of the garden was dug up even more. And when I went into the house, there was 3 other people living in the house. And when I went into the house, my room was across the way from the kitchen. And when I went into my room, the lights wouldn't work, and the lights, I had no electricity. In the only place in the house was my room. So I decided to say out loud, "Okay, I'm ready to move." As soon as I said that, somebody gave me tagged me in a post on Facebook, and I ended up moving to Eastbourne. So I ended up moving to Brighton. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, more nervous than I was the first time. So I ended up moving to Brighton. The lady that had that house on the hill, the house sold really quickly, and she had a big mahogany sleigh bed. And I had said to her that when the house sells, can I buy the bed from you? The house went through, and the contract went through so quickly. The day I was moving, and it took about 3 months for everything to go through really quickly. The day I was moving, she called me up and said, "The contract has been signed. You can take the bed with you when you leave." When I only probably 10 years later that I googled the bed, and it's cost about £2,000 the bed, because it was mahogany sleigh bed. So I did that. That happened. So every house I moved into, I said, "If I move in, your house is going to sell." A lot of the time I didn't know what I was saying. I just said it. But what I was hearing was the house wanted people to move through them. And what I've noticed is it's the house that calls you. It's not you that chooses the house. And some of you may realise that's what happens, and some of you may think, "Oh, that's kind of a bit weird," or some of you might even feel that as soon as you walk through the door. So this is where I'm going to just pause for a moment and just say to you that houses are not simply bricks and mortar. They are a vibrational energy like all things. Whatever they are made from moves, vibrates and oscillates at rates that we cannot see with the naked eye. One of the things that I love to encourage people to do is write a love letter to your home. Here is some of the love letter to the home that I'm currently living in now, in St Leonard's, and this is the letter that I wrote. I'll give you a little moment to read it, but I won't give you too long. This is only part of it. It was a longer letter. It's really important. I find that it's really important to really acknowledge the spaces that you live in. Not only if you own the house, but if you're renting a room or renting the house, show the house that you care for it, because it cares for you. It's holding you. So that's the pause. This is the next bit that I like to talk about, is to ask your house what colour it wants to be painted, because it will tell you. you'll have an idea. If you ask the house without thinking that you're going to hear it speak, you will get a feeling of what colour it should be painted. So these are some houses that I've loved to look at. They are, sometimes I might just love the colour of the door, which is that pink one and the yellow, and sometimes I may just like what I'm seeing. This is my house that I love to live in. It's number 237, and I call it the House of Possibilities. Bless and acknowledge your house, and you can do that by the way you decorate it. So when I moved into my house, I heard my house tell me that it wanted to be the whole way to be painted white, and I thought, okay, the doors are white, I can't have white walls because I hadn't decorated anywhere else. So I did what the house asked me to do, and I painted the walls white. However, I made sure that I painted every door a different colour, because that then invigorates me. And the more you're invigorated in your house, the more your house will give to you. So ask your space how it wants to look. Dress your home to ignite your joy and let the light in. Bless and acknowledge your home. And you can do that by simply placing your hand on your heart and a hand on the wall and say, I bless myself, I bless this house. I bless myself, I bless this house. I bless myself, I bless this house. And you'll be astounded to see what transpires when you do that. When you just show some acknowledgement to the space that you live in and the environment that you live in, regardless of whether you own it or not. Acknowledge the seemingly mundane and the area and the environment that you live in. Wonder about and wonder around your environment. So what I would like you to take away is an appreciation for where you live, and acknowledge the space that you live in, show it grace and a blessing. And the blessing could be something as simple as a bunch of flowers, letting the light in, opening the windows, cleaning the windows. So an awareness that everything is energy and can be influenced by you. A way to communicate with your house. Let your house know when you are going to renovate it, tear down a wall, or make drastic changes. And I will always recommend that you live in the house before you do anything to it, because that's the way you get to know the house and the house gets to know you. So this is a picture of my family home. I decided to take an aerial view because I believe, and it might be stuff that I'm making up in my head, but I believe all houses speak to each other. So another thing that I like to recommend that people do is make a list of all the houses that you've ever lived in and send it some love and send it a thank you. So one of the other things that I wanted you to leave with is, I'm getting my words mixed up because I'm still very nervous, is just to pay attention to things like drippy taps. Drippy taps could be something where you're feeling emotionally overloaded and it will show up in your home. Condensation on the windows could be, it's not necessarily how it is, but it could be suppression, feeling suppressed or suppressing something. A messy house, which is, my house is messy at the minute. And I realised, and I didn't realise it until I was doing this presentation, is that it could be low mood, feeling overwhelmed. There are things that you are not dealing with. And I know that for me, that the last one is the one that was the strongest for me. Your house may be feeling the turmoil that you might be feeling or have felt that you haven't actually dealt with. So those are the things that I'd like you to leave with. And just simply show an appreciation for the space and the environment that you live in and give it some thanks. Thank you for listening.
There we are. Claudia Burnett.